Welcome back. The focus of this module will be to talk a little bit about the different types of nails that are available for a broad range of applications. But let's talk a little bit about the history of nails. And I think the earliest form of nail that I'm aware of was the utilization of hardwood thorns, like these honey locust thorns, to affix pieces together. But really, metal nails as we know them were first invented around 1800 BC during the Bronze Age. And there was very little innovation in the production of these early nails that were essentially hand forged by blacksmiths until the 1790s. And at that time, techniques were developed that allowed nails to be able to be cut from a piece of iron sheet, and then a head was formed on that nail. And some 100 years after that, the next major innovation was a manufacturing technique that allowed nails to be fully formed through mechanical process. So, and that's how nails are made today. So essentially a nail is made out of, manufactured out of a piece of rod stock. That rod stock is sheared to length, head is formed, and a point is formed. So among the most common nails that we find used in construction are what are referred to as common nails. And common nails are were typically measured by their weight, and that weight is referred to as with a numerical designation of a D. So this particular nail is a 20D, or I'm sorry, a 60D, and this particular nail is a 10D, or a framing nail. Here we have examples of reduced head nails, or what are typically referred to as finished nails, and trim nails, wire brads, escutcheons, tacks, U-nails, and then a couple of oddballs here that include Hungarian nails, iron cobbler's nails, hobnails, and cobbler's tacks. So let's look at some of the differences between the anatomical properties of these different types of nails. So common nails are measured by their diameter and by their length, and typically have a broad flat head on the end of them. And the function of that head is to give you good holding power, so that when you nail through those two pieces, the head is doing most of the work to keep those two pieces held together. It's typically used in circumstances where the appearance of the nail head is either unseen because it's a stud wall that's being covered, or it might be for doing something like rough framing outdoors of a raised garden bed where you don't have any concerns or cares about the appearance of the nail. But when it comes to doing what we call trim work, which includes a lot of the details, architectural details that we see used in woodworking applications, like in ornamental woodwork, or in base trim, or base shoes that are used along the foot of a wall to cover the transition between the floor and the wall, we're more inclined to see the utilization of things like finish nails. And finish nails are also measured by their diameter and their length, but it has a reduced head diameter so that that head can be secured or seated below the height of that material itself, so then we can then come over the top of that and use a putty over the top of that nail head, so there's no evidence of the nails that are compromising the aesthetics of that trim. Panel nails, where there's more concern about pull-out or withdrawal, typically have a characteristic that we refer to as a ring shank. So there's raised ridges on the body of the nail that decrease its likelihood of withdrawing or pulling out. A smaller version of a trim nail are what are referred to as wire brads, and they use a measurement of gauge for their diameter and then common fractions for their length. So a few other different types of relatives of the finished nail are what are called cut tacks, and we also have double point tacks or U-nails. And these are most commonly used in upholstery making, and because of their large head size, they have a very good capacity for distributing the load over those fabrics that are being secured to a substrate, so the fabric is less likely to tear or pull out around the head of the nail. And then these are mostly cobbler's nails that we have right here. These are some beautiful little vintage nails that I found at a flea market. So on this side, we have some other types of specialty nails. That includes roofing nails, and these roofing nails have an extra large, thin head on the nails to distribute that load over the surface area of things like asphalt tiles that a small head wouldn't be able to restrain or would have a tendency to tear right through. These are also plated with a secondary metal of zinc because these will be exposed to the outdoor elements, and we have concerns about them oxidizing and rusting, which would cause both discoloration on the materials that they're mounted to and rapid deterioration in an outdoor environment. These are called copper slating nails. It's another type of roofing nail, and although copper nails are significantly more expensive, they have the benefit of being capable of forming a natural oxide film on the screw that minimizes further oxidation. So it, in essence, rust a little bit, and then that rust or oxidation creates a protective barrier against further deterioration. This is called a spiral nail or a pallet nail, and this has a twist in it that minimizes its tendency to pull out or withdraw. You also find twist nails and ring shank nails used in the construction of things like boxes, because the load in a box has a tendency to push out on the sides, and if our nail is in parallel with that load, it would have a tendency to open up over time. And then last but not least, we have three different examples of what we call masonry nails or concrete nails. This is a cut nail, this is a fluted nail, and this is a screw nail. And these nails are made out of a material that has a higher resistance to impact and bending, so that you're able to drive them into hard materials like cement, but they're also heat treated or tempered in a way to maximize those characteristics that make them resistant to bending. Let's talk a little bit about the way that nails are driven or applied, and so we're going to look at a range of different types of hammers. We're also going to look at some setting tools like this brad setting tool and demonstrate how that's used. And we're going to talk a little bit also about the function of nail pulling that can be done with both hammers or with pry bars, or what are sometimes called cat's paws. So hammers in general, let's talk about the anatomy of a hammer, right? So hammers in general are defined by a number of characteristics. They're defined by the type of face that they have, and that face can either be what's called a bell face that has a convex surface to it. It can be a straight face that has straight parallel edges, or it can be a corrugated or waffle face like we have on this framing hammer here. We also have a couple of distinctions that we can make about the claw end or the nail pulling end of a hammer. So in general, we have what are referred to as straight claw hammers and curved claw hammers. And you can see that there are curves of different degrees on different sizes or different types of claw hammers. We can also talk about hammers in terms of their weight. So some of the better quality hammers will have their weight stamped right on them, and those weights are measured in ounces. So typically framing hammers are much heavier hammers that range around the 20 to 28 ounce weight. General carpentry hammers are typically somewhere in the order of 12 to 16 ounces, and trim hammers can be between 10 and 4 ounces depending on the scale of work that they're engineered or designed to do. You'll see that there are also some distinctions in terms of the style of the handles. And again, those handles, both in terms of their style and their length, very much speak to what those hammers are engineered to do. But in some cases, it also has to do with innovations in materials that are incorporated into hammers that, like this rubber handle, which is engineered for absorbing the shock or the vibration that comes with driving nails. So we have framing, general carpentry, and trim nails. We have nail pullers, and we have small wire brad setting tools.